What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we have a bit of a different type of video today. We have an article that we're going to go over, but we also have a brief clip from an interview that was recently done on Talks from the Crypt, which is a podcast. Danielle Harris, if you don't know who Danielle Harris is, Danielle Harris, as it relates to Halloween, was in Halloween 4 and 5, and she was also in the Rob Zombie remakes, Halloween and Halloween 2. She did an interview, a lengthy interview on this podcast, and there was a snippet that I wanted to go over as it relates to Halloween, specifically Rob Zombie's Halloween films. It's not that long, it's about 8-9 minutes, but she opens up a little bit about her experience with the films. So I thought it'd be interesting as we go over this particular article that we touch on that a bit, give our thoughts on it, because I for one, I enjoy Danielle Harris's, I've enjoyed her career. I enjoyed her as part of the Halloween franchise. I do wish they would have done a bit more with her character, especially in the original. I say original because, again, we have the original, and then she was part of the remakes with Halloween 4 and 5. I mean, obviously we saw in part 6 that she wasn't in that film, but her character was much older, and her character was eventually killed off very early on in Halloween 6. That should not be a spoiler to anybody. I mean, Halloween 6 has been out for quite some time, so if that was a spoiler for you, I don't know what to tell you, because again, it shouldn't necessarily be. But let's jump into this particular article here. And as you all know, I'm a huge Halloween fan. Michael Myers. I think Halloween is probably easily my favorite overall franchise, and Michael Myers would easily be my favorite horror villain. Now, I've said this before when it comes to just general talks about sequels, number of sequels. Do I necessarily agree that every Halloween film should have been made? No, I don't think so. Do I still go out and watch every Halloween film once they get released? Yes, I absolutely do. Just like I'm sure many people will go out and watch every single Saw film or Scream or Paranormal Activity, right? Some franchises that just shouldn't go on, continue to go on. I think an argument could be made is, should Halloween have continued to go on past a certain point? So let's jump into this article. Then we're going to go over to the interview, and we're going to run through that as quickly as we can. So for this article, Halloween 1978 test footage has been unearthed. Hopefully, we'll see it soon. Now, I've said this before. Halloween, the original one, 1978, is easily in my top 5 favorite horror films of all time. But I don't look at Halloween as a standalone. I look at Halloween and Halloween 2 from 1981 as, in my opinion, one film. Because Halloween 2 picks up right where Halloween leaves off. So I look at it as just one continuous film, and which is why if I'm going to watch one, I'm going to plan to watch them both at the same time. So let's jump into these article details. This year marks the 47th anniversary of the release of director John Carpenter's 1978 masterpiece Halloween. And fan Billy Kirkus, who shared some behind-the-scenes Pangolid test footage from the making of the film way back in 2013, has revealed he has just unearthed a whole lot more test footage. Kirkus wrote on Facebook, "You know, I get asked a lot about test footage from 1970s Halloween. I knew there was a bunch of stuff in there, but I didn't know exactly how much. Thanks to my friend Jim, he trekked to the vault and got me some photos I needed. As Jim pointed out, this footage isn't scene specific, so these spools are tests of some sort. Much like the Panavision camera test footage I posted a decade back, this could have numerous things on it. Everything from camera tests with actors, locations, behind the scenes stuff, lighting test, mask test, walking down the street and they're testing something, anything. How cool." There's 42 spools of the stuff ranging from 30 seconds to 3 or 4 minutes. Hell, this could have footage of people sitting around eating lunch on the set. Who knows? Probably at least 20 to 25 minutes of footage here. Now, the cool thing, since this is not scene specific, meaning not in the movie of Halloween, I should be able to post it and should not have any rights issues. So the newest release of 1970s Halloween, the Steelbook and the Walmart 4K, has nothing extra to get excited about. Well, this might just satisfy you. Stay tuned. Kruger's also shared many pictures of the spools of the film that has been located. So let's go down. So these are the spools. So these are the spools that they're talking about. All these, some examples of them. I'm not sure if these are all the same. So these two are different. We can just tell by the code that are on them. Let's keep going. Another different one here. So this is what D41, D51, D54, still D51. So that's the same one. And it says plus 38, but we're not in the actual post to click on this to look at the other 38 images. So I'll provide the link for this article in the description below. So if you want to go through this and see if you can find those additional images, you can do so. Director John Carpenter. So this just goes on to talk about the original film, some of the back history on it. So again, a very quick, short article. I hope that we can. I hope he does release this footage, compiles it together, and releases it at some point. I love this type of stuff. You guys have heard me say before. When it comes to behind the scenes stuff, interviews, the making of, anything to do with that type of thing, especially when it's a film like 1970s Halloween, where a lot of this stuff you would think is either lost in time, eventually gets, thrown away, damaged, burns up in a fire. I mean, we've heard those stories about, some studios having fires in their vaults, and certain originals are completely damaged and lost forever, and we have nothing to refer back to on those films, right? We have nothing to go back to as far as restoring them. So, and that's not to say that's what this is, but I still think it's pretty cool that there's this many spools of a film that could amount to almost 30 minutes of behind the scenes content just to see how things were working. So very, very interesting. Hopefully I don't think we're going to get this anytime soon on any physical release, unless he tries to release it and then the rights owners come in and say, hey, hold on, you can't release that. And then they decide to do it themselves to make a profit. Either way, I hope it sees the light of day. Very much like the producer's cut of Halloween 6. I remember when Halloween 6 came out and the producer's cut was this urban legend. And for a while there, that version did float around on bootleg copies on VHS, but it was never something official you could ever get a hold of, and it was far and few between of who actually had a bootleg copy until in the last couple of years they decided to actually release that version of it. So hopefully we'll get this. All right, so let's jump over to the Danielle Harris interview where she talks about the Rob Zombie remake. So again, we're just going to run through it. We'll pause it here and there and give our thoughts as she goes through it, but let's jump over to that and see what she has to say.
Talks from the crypt.
I mean, that movie was I just feel so bad for Rob. I mean, I just felt so bad for him with the shit that he had to go through with the studio, and it was so hard to watch something that he loved so much just put such a bad taste in his mouth.
Right. Now, I know this might be a question for Rob, but I'm curious because I hear that all the time, what he had to go through.
Yeah.
We never hear what he had to go through. We just heard that he had to go through things. What was it? I mean, I know they were breathing down his neck, but that can't be that bad.
I think it's just a lot of studio input and really dumb shit all the time and making his job really fucking difficult to do what he wanted to do by continuing to add or change things or, and that's the way studios are though. Even now, I mean.
So my understanding is, and I think this is something we all know, is that obviously he had a lot of problems with the first film. And I see a lot of problems as far as, studio was pushing back, wanted certain things done, he wanted certain things done. But I think ultimately the film, for the vast majority of the film, was what he wanted to do, and his vision was there. Now, when it came to the second film, I think it's no secret he did not want to come back for the second film, and I think in many ways he was forced to come back to the second film, because I also remember them also talking about doing a third one. But he said if he comes back, that's to do the second film, that is going to be the last one he does. He will not come back and do a third film, no matter how successful the second film is. And even then, the studio was still giving him problems on the second film. I don't think Rob Zombie's ever come out directly and said this is exactly what happened. To my knowledge, he hasn't. It's been a lot of secondhand, third-hand information of, Rob talked to this person or someone like Danielle was there and experienced it and saw it, and now is, vocalizing what their perspective on it. So,
I mean, it's very difficult to not, and they say stuff that's like, wait, are you kidding? Or are you being serious?
Yeah.
You know, wait, Michael's going to space? Like, this is not real. It's really not. Like, this
I
is
love
supposed to be
Jason X.
funny. You know, so I think Rob's better at just being able to do Rob.
Did you get to read like an original screenplay and know what he wanted to do? And like, do you know
It was
anything that was
everything. I mean, from what I remember, it was exactly the way that he wrote it.
Okay.
It really wasn't. It wasn't. They didn't change stuff from the first one. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of things. I just could see Rob pulling his hair out.
Yeah.
All the time. So I don't know what phone calls were happening or what was going on or what it was, but there was definitely. I mean, I wrapped 3 times from the second one and had to come back and do more shooting and then wrapped and come back and do shooting and then wrapped. So bad that on Halloween 2 I wrapped and then was called to go back.
I mean, that's telling right there, right? Where she's saying for the second film, her at least for the parts and scenes that she wrapped filming 3 different times, and she was called back to do reshoots, to do whatever. I understand, and we've all seen it regardless of the genre. You know, a film completes production and then there's going to be reshoots or there's going to be other things that need to be done to whether fix things or, you know, tighten certain scenes up. But to come back on 3 different occasions, that screams studio interference. That screams that the studio is coming in saying, no, we don't want what you've given us. We want this instead. And then again, you're having to call back certain actors and actresses to come back and either refilm certain scenes or film brand new scenes that were never a part of the original story. And in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what was happening here, where she's having to come back and film brand new scenes because the studio told Rob, yeah, that's not going to work, or we don't like that, or that's not what we envision. Well, in my opinion, it's not what you envision because it's not your vision. It was Rob Zombie's vision, and you wanted him to come back and do the second film. You should have allowed him to do the second film, right? I mean, I'm not saying completely off the chains. And there needs to be some restraint, but by and all, you should allow him to cook, right? And you know, so I don't understand why studio executives always feel and believe that they know what's best and they know what the fans want when the vast majority of them do not.
Of like 2 weeks later or something, I remember it was on a Valentine's Day. I left from LA to go to Atlanta, and I got there and I'd been there, 2 other times. So the person that normally picked me up wasn't there. And I was calling production going, hey, I'm here. I don't see anybody. And they were like, what do you mean you're here? I was like, what do you mean? What do I mean that I'm here? I'm literally at the airport. Like, I'm here to go to work. They were like, oh, well, we pushed your days. Nobody told you? Well, you sent a car for me and I got on a plane with tickets that you booked for me. So at some point, somebody should have canceled one of those.
Right.
And I wouldn't be here. But now I'm fucking here. So now what do I do?
Yeah.
So I either stay for a week and do nothing in Covington, Georgia, and I'm an hour from the hotel, hour and a half from the hotel, or I just go book me on a flight. I'm going to go right back to Los Angeles for 6 hours on a plane or whatever. So that's what I did. I literally got off, got my bags from baggage claim, and turned around and got back on a plane. But it's stuff like that that's like, how is that happening on big movies? Like, how are people making these mistakes?
Well, you think that once you
I'd be
break a
pissed.
certain
I would be
level,
absolutely pissed if that
everyone's now
happened to me.
professional.
No, it's always a shit show. There's always no matter what. And you're like, wow, really?
Yeah.
How is that stuff still happening on things where this shouldn't be happening? At what point does it just work well? Because I've been on everything from, $100 million budget movies to $100,000 budget movies.
Right.
Stupid shit happens on both.
How did you feel Rob did with both Halloweens?
I like the second one.
You
People
don't like the first?
I love the first.
Okay.
I think he did a great job with the first. I wouldn't change anything really. I didn't love aspects of the second one. I wish that it would have just kind of been like Brad and me and Scout and like that storyline in the house with the sheriff and kind of her losing her, things happening to her and more personal stuff. I didn't like the way.
I think so. That's where my opinion differs, and I haven't been quiet about this. I think for me, the Rob Zombie remakes While they have their entertainment value, I don't necessarily, they're not the Halloween films I would reach for if I wanted to watch a Halloween films. They're probably going to be the third option I'm going to reach for. And even then that's a stretch. They're not the two films in the overall IP or franchise that I typically revisit often. And that and that has nothing to do with Rob Zombie, because there's other Rob Zombie films I do quite enjoy. I think it was just how his portrayal or his interpretation of Halloween. It's hard when you have such a strong original film. And yeah, I think an argument can be made that the second film from '81 wasn't nearly as strong, and we know it wasn't nearly as strong as the first. And in John Carpenter, it has even come out and said over the many years he never wanted to do that film. That film was never supposed to be done either, and him and Deborah were forced to do that film, and they ended that film the way they did because they felt that Michael Myers' story should have ended in the first one and was definitely going to end in the second one, which is why we got Halloween 3 the way we did. If you don't know the backstory in that, we'll cover that in a different video. But for Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2, for me, they just felt they were very much in name. They were using the names, they were using the character, but it just didn't feel, for me, very much, in a sense, a connection to the original.
Way Loomis was in the second one. I didn't like any of that stuff.
He vilified him. It was
just weird. It wasn't what I knew. He was getting that way in the first one a little bit, but I was like, he's amping it up, you know? And then he became this like douchey, like, I don't know.
It was kind of funny though.
It was funny. But then I go back and rewatch Halloween 5.
Yeah.
And like Loomis is fucking horrible.
Everybody gives the ending of Halloween 5 shit. I really like that. You climb in the
Him breaking
casket.
I
don't think you can really compare Dr. Loomis, the Dr. Loomis character in Halloween 5 to the Dr. Loomis character in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Two completely different points of where the character has been in that journey of the story, if you think about it. I mean, at that point, played by Donald Pleasance, Dr. Sam Loomis had already been through the ringer. And we've seen that one, obviously, as we see in Halloween 4, the scars that he has. And those scars are supposed to be a representation of the explosion from the end of Halloween 2 when he turned on like all those like oxygen tanks and then took his lighter, flipped it, and then the whole room blew up. Essentially, at the time, believing that it also killed Michael Myers, which we know it obviously didn't. So I think the Dr. Loomis character in Halloween 5 was played appropriately because he was very much supposed to be an elderly man at that point. He was already old in the original Halloween film. Now we're talking 4 films later, and just from a timing perspective, a lot of time would have passed from the original film to Halloween 5. So he's playing much an elderly man, but still trying to be the same character from the first film. So I think that's where the struggle was.
Get caught on fire in that scene though.
Oh, because all the candles surrounding it.
Yeah, and I'm in a fucking crinoline dress that is like super flammable with streaks and tips sprayed aerosol flammable shit all over me.
Jesus.
And I'm the one that has to jump out of a coffin that's slightly positioned on a bathtub.
Yeah.
With 8,000 candles around. Like,
right.
You know, that's the stuff that like they would never be able to do that now. There's the 80s, you know,
Yeah.
like never happened nowadays.
Which is crazy.
Can you even have candles lit on set anymore? Probably not.
Nope. I've got some over
Yeah,
there.
probably not.
Oh yeah, no, you're fine, I think.
But no, I think Rob Zombie's Halloweens are the greatest horror remakes possibly of all time. I love the Hills Have Eyes remakes, but 1 and 2.
Okay, so I don't know, but I don't know if that's his opinion, and I respect everyone's opinion on when it comes to remakes, what they enjoy and don't enjoy. In my opinion, I wouldn't, from a modern remake perspective, I would not say these are the best ones done. For me, and I think it's still modern, 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, that's the best modern day remake when you think about the classic, and I say classic horror films, I'm talking like the 70s, 80s. I'm not going as far as back as like the 40s, 50s, and 60s because, even when you think about like the Psycho remake was absolutely atrocious. It was garbage in my opinion. Never should have been remade. But when we think about modern remakes, I would have to go, for me personally, even as big as a Halloween fan as I am, I would have to go with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003.
I couldn't figure out what rating to give them because I love them both so much. Your story in 2 was incredible.
I liked that storyline and that relationship. And I think, I think you could see the chemistry between Scout and I and Brad and I in there. It seemed real to me. That seemed like the Halloween movie vibe. Mm-hmm. The other parts didn't seem very Halloween to me.
So you didn't like Hobo Michael with the hooded fucking puffy jacket?
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit. I didn't want to see his face. I didn't want to see any part of his face.
Yeah, that was. I agree with that. But man, when Brad Dourif is leaving for work or Sheriff Brackett's leaving for work, and he's like, all right, I'm going to bring home pizza. You're like, make sure it's not gluten-free. He's like, why don't you just take off the cheese and eat the cardboard?
Oh, yeah.
But then he comes back and you're like, what happened to gluten-free? He's like, oh, I forgot. But you guys get into this brilliant back and forth about eating meat. And he's like, we all have a little caveman in us. And it cuts to Michael cutting open a dog.
Yeah.
And he starts eating it. And you're like, what the fuck? And then it cuts back to you guys laughing and eating pizza. And that was just such Rob's style that I loved. And to see your trauma in 2, because everybody always focuses so much on Laurie's story, but with you and how different you were in 1, the fact that you didn't go out on Halloween touched me. I was like, oh man, she's staying.
So just from a timing perspective, this goes on for about another 2 minutes. And really what else they get into is Danielle Harris just really starts talking about for the next 2 minutes the additional content and scenes and character development that Rob put in place for her character in the second film that she believes wasn't necessarily originally there, but because she was kept alive from the first film, her character, I think she played Annie, if I remember correctly, keeping her alive, because in the original the original film, Annie was killed in the original film. In this case, Rob kept Annie, the character, alive, bringing her into the second film. So she felt that because it was Annie, but because it was Danielle Harris playing the character, that Rob took care of her and wrote out more content, more scenes, more lines for her because it was her. And if that turns out, if that was the case, that is the case, props to him, because again, Danielle Harris isn't, this newbie, so to speak, when it comes to the horror genre. She's very much a horror scream queen. I'll give her that title. She's been in the horror genre for quite some time, and I think is one of those few and far between actresses that finds a lot of success within the horror space. And that's not to say she can't do anything else. That's to say is I think her true, I don't want to say calling, but her fit is within the horror space. And I like the fact that we do have those hardcore standard foundational actresses who love horror and who have built their careers in horror and don't really have an interest. I mean, they have interest to go do other things, but don't have an interest to leave horror behind them. And we've seen that happen where some actors and actresses get their start in horror, and then once they become known and big, they feel like horror is beneath them. So anyways, that's going to do it for this brief horror news update. I'll put the link for that video in the description of this video, so if you want to watch the last 2 minutes, you can, but also you can go over to that channel. It'll also give you the link to that channel so you can subscribe to Talks from the Crypt, Horror and True Crime. So check them out as well. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.